This is the story of two of the world's favorite drinks, both with one aim: global domination.
Coke and Pepsi conquered the world. I mean, there is no greater symbol of globalization than those two fizzy drinks companies.
On board will be two specially designed soft drink cans, one from Coke, the other from Pepsi.
130 years of feuds and fierce competition.
I think that Pepsi challenge just got in their head. They got thinking that consumers want sweet. We've got to be sweet. And they panicked. They blinked.
But which one is your favorite? In the red corner, it's the billion-dollar beverage that is Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola is now going to be even better.
And in the blue corner, nipping at the heels of the leader, it's the younger upstart, Pepsi.
Pepsi is the cola to beat.
So take your seat ringside and get ready for a fight with added fizz.
As a product, it's just fizzy brown water.
As Coke and Pepsi battle it out to be crowned king of the colas.
You're not just buying a fizzy drink, you're buying a brand and a whole lifestyle that comes with it.
Over 40 years ago, Pepsi did something that took the world by storm. They introduced the Pepsi Challenge.
Okay, now I want you to tell me which one you chose. Pepsi Cola.
And in summer 2019, they did it all over again.
We went all in with the ultimate blind taste test against the nation's biggest selling cola. And we won.
The premise is simple. Take a sip and decide your favorite. It was this challenge that in the 1970s saw people in their thousands choose Pepsi over Coke. It was a gutsy move, as it was all about the taste and not about the brand. But what exactly is in the mysterious brown liquid?
Coca-Cola, or Pepsi are 99.5% water and sucrose. The really cool part is when you get to 0.5%, the very last little bit, which is a whole mishmash of very interesting chemicals. Both Coca-Cola and Pepsi are fairly heavy on the citrus flavours. So we're going to go with orange first.
The highly guarded and very secret recipes of both Coke and Pepsi contain small concentrations of lemon oil, nutmeg, coriander and cinnamon oil.
You don't want to go overboard with this, otherwise your Coke tastes like Christmas. So now we're going to kick off with the Pepsi flavouring. All of the essential oils are the same with the exception of one. And that one is this neroli, which is based on essentially a flour. And what they replaced it with instead is this thing called petit grain,
which is a citrus-flavoured essential oil derived from the bitter orange tree.
This is the main difference between this and Coca-Cola. This may well be the reason that Pepsi has that more lemony taste.
The original Coke recipe also contained cocaine, and one other subtle difference in the flavour combinations is the addition of cocoa leaf and vanilla.
What we're going to do is mix that up now.
The individual flavour concentrations are added to the sugar syrup along with citric acid.
It's kind of the magic moment.
And black caramel to give it its distinctive colour.
So that's the Pepsi syrup finished, and when we compare it to the Coke, they look very, very similar indeed. So what we need to do now is we need to add carbonated water, and then you'll have your drink. It's kind of the moment of truth when I actually get to try these things, so I'm kind of excited. So that's interesting. It's got a lot of that caramel flavour going, quite a strong caramel taste, even though it's not a stronger colour as modern Coke. I'm definitely getting sort of vanilla-y taste and the cinnamon in there. I guess the proof's in the pudding with the Pepsi, so let's give this a go. Ooh, it's not as complicated, and I guess there's a simpler recipe, so that would make sense. The taste is a lot more cleaner, I suppose. I think I prefer the Coca-Cola.
Remember, when you are buying a can of Coca-Cola, only a few pence of that is the fizzy liquid inside. Most of it is the brand you're buying. Now, to this day, Coca-Cola spends $6 billion a year advertising its products. It's worth remembering that a lot of the genius moves, particularly the marketing moves by Coca-Cola and by Pepsi, involved tons of money being thrown at the problem.
Pepsi spends over $5.8 billion themselves in advertising. This is no small battle. This is the Cola Wars, and it has been going on for over 130 years. North Carolina, 1898. Innovative pharmacist Caleb Bradham had invented a brown sugary drink that he hoped would make him a fortune.
Pepsi starts out as nothing more than another imitator of Coca-Cola, and there are tons of imitators of Coca-Cola.
And there were lots of these kind of cola-like drinks doing the rounds in these drugstores, promising absolutely everything, whether it's headaches or digestive problems. So Pepsi, you know, that's named after dyspepsia, indigestion.
After trademarking the name Pepsi-Cola, they were out of the traps and on their way up. But hard times arrived at Pepsi-Cola's door during World War I. The high sugar price and severe rationing of it saw them eventually go bankrupt. Coke, the brand leader, was invented 12 years earlier by another pharmacist, John Pemberton, and was receiving massive success.
The recipe was cocaine, caffeine, and sugar. You know, the big three things that really gave you a jolt of energy. And that was a product that people really liked.
Coca-Cola passed through the hands of several buyers, eventually being bought by an American business tycoon.
Asa Candler acquired the company in 1891, and in the early days, one of his main objectives was to put their logo on almost everything. It didn't matter, any type of advertising they would engage in.
Asa Candler saw the future by using not just a little advertising, but mass advertising. You know, he poured, in 1902, I think, over $100,000 in advertising, which is huge. It's enormous.
It was all very well throwing money into advertising, but Asa Candler wanted to make sure Coke was available to buy nationwide.
What Coca-Cola did really smartly was it developed a franchise system in which it sold this cola syrup to bottlers all around the US. This was really revolutionary for its time, so it quickly gained nationwide listings. It was unusual to have a drink that you could find around the entire US, and it looked the same, and it looked premium, it looked quality. And that was something they really stood out on.
Many other copycat cola businesses had tried and failed. One by one, Coke beat its imitators.
Africola, Americola, Alicola, Balamacola, Cafe d'Ola, Carbo-Cola, Candy Cola, Capicola, Chericola, and I'm just through the C's so far. It was an endless stream of imitators.
And everyone had, different bottles, and they were trying to look like Coke.
2 bottles of Coca-Cola, yeah? Make sure it's Coca-Cola. All them bottles look pretty much alike.
With Pepsi being bankrupt, Coke didn't see them as a threat. It would prove to be a huge mistake. In 1931, after passing through the hands of several investors, Pepsi-Cola was finally bought by ambitious businessman Charles Guth.
Pepsi was bought out of bankruptcy in the 30s by a fellow who ran soda fountains in New York and wanted to compete with Coke because they wouldn't give him a discount on syrup.
Pepsi's moment in the sun comes in the 1930s. Following the Wall Street crash and the Great Depression, people are on their uppers. They are looking at ways to save money. And Coca-Cola's not that cheap. A little small bottle costs a nickel, 5 cents.
And Pepsi-Cola realised this was their opportunity. What they would do is that they would offer cola at great value.
So Pepsi offers double the amount for your nickel.
Pepsi's radio jingle, Nickel Nickel, became the first radio advertisement to be broadcast coast to coast.
Pepsi Cola, it's a spot, 12 full ounces, that's a lot, twice as much for a nickel too. Pepsi Cola is the drink for you. Nickel, nickel.
Eventually it would be recorded in 55 languages and named one of the most effective ads of the 20th century.
Coca-Cola had a real dilemma when Pepsi-Cola came out with this 12-ounce bottle and promoted it with their jingle twice as much as a nickel too. Consumers were drinking it up all over the place. What was Coca-Cola going to do?
The gauntlet had been thrown down. Pepsi were back and they were fighting. Coca-Cola weren't going to take this lying down. The cola wars had begun.
Pepsi was getting real, and they took it to our streets with the Pepsi Challenge.
Hidden away in the northwest of England is a Coca-Cola factory.
Usually get here for 7 o'clock play test. It's a very fast-paced place, so this is probably the calmest point of the day.
Operations Director Alison Rands has given us an all-access pass to their Wakefield factory.
Do you usually let people film in the day?
No, we certainly don't. It's very, very rare to let a film crew into Coca-Cola Wakefield.
Why is that?
Because it's there's some elements that are closely guarded secrets.
Why are they so secretive? Well, I suppose mainly because of the secret formula. How they make Coca-Cola, what exactly is in that recipe. I suppose Coca-Cola is simply the Willy Wonka of soft drinks.
Are you ready then? Welcome to the biggest soft drinks facility in Europe.
The Wakefield factory was established in 1989 and is the largest soft drinks plant by volume in Europe. They have 9 manufacturing lines that produce in excess of 100 million cases every year, and that's just this factory alone.
We've got just short of 500 people on a 24/7 shift pattern. We run 364 days of the year. The can lines will be able to produce 6,000 cans per minute. Our bottle lines will do 2,000 a minute, so a total of about 8,000 cans or bottles per minute, every single minute, every day of the week, to make sure we can make 1 billion litres of product a year.
Sorry, how much?
1 billion litres of product a year. It takes a bit of getting your head around that.
So what's the secret to making this incredibly successful product?
So this is the syrup room. Today we're just prepping some Diet Coke. It's a 38,000 litre syrup prep. That syrup prep will last us approximately 4 hours. The concentrate, the water and the sweeteners all get mixed together and blended. If we're making Coke, we'd have similar concentrate with the secret recipe in it. We'd then pipe in liquid sugar from our sugar dissolving plant and water to make up the syrup in the same fashion.
A mixed solution is then piped onto the production line, carbonated and dispensed into pre-made cans and bottles at astonishing speed.
And then we close the container. So that's either with a seamed lid for a can or a cap on top of the bottle.
All of the massive amount of product that's made is stored in a huge warehouse.